Dracula, a 3-episode miniseries directed by Johnny Campbell, Damon Thomas, Paul McGugan, I don't know, starring, Claes Bang, Dolly Wells, and John Heffernan. First episode, The Rules of the Beast. Mainly the introduction of the main characters, Count Dracula, Jonathan Harker, and Sister Agatha Van Helsing.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Our boy Johnny travels to Transylvania to assist Dracula with a property purchase in England. Dracula feeds on his blood to regain his youth. And that's where the story starts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the first episode? What did you like about the first episode?
I liked that it was legit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was loyal to the original story about Dracula wanting to buy a mansion in London because he found the reincarnation of his dead wife. So I thought, okay, this is starting okay.
But in the series, they never mentioned that his wife that he found the reincarnation of his wife.
I don't think they didn't mention it.
They didn't mention it.
No, but I think he knew it because he was staring at the photograph of Mina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was there was a connection, kind of about it.
So we had to assume that he knew already about her.
But it was never legit in the series. So because a couple of months ago I watched also a Dracula movie from 1931 on DVD, and it's pretty close. A lot of shots are very similar, and also like the design of the castle and one of the first scenes when they eat together. It's like a one-to-one comparison, pretty close. And what I also really enjoyed about the first episode, so that it was so true to the original source.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you didn't like about the first episode?
Yes. A couple of things, actually. First, it was Dracula's hints about him being a vampire. I think it was too much.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows it's Dracula. Okay, Dracula is the vampire. He's supposed to be a little serious. And I didn't like what they did with his character. Made him, trying to be funny. Because every time Jonathan asked something, he was like, yeah, okay, I'm a vampire. Or am I? I don't know.
Mysterious. He tried to be too much mysterious about it.
For example, Jonathan was watching the wine, and he asked Dracula, "Hey, do you drink?" "No, I don't drink wine." Really?
What I also thought was kind of weird was the introduction of his experiments to make a bride.
Mm-hmm.
It was in my opinion, kind of too much, and it was like in general it was bad for the story because there were a lot of plot holes. In the original story, he also looks very, very old, but in this story he also looks old. But his first meal in years is Johnny, but in the story, in the series, it's kind of like, okay, he had a bride, so he had to his brides upstairs, and he had to feed him. So it was like, okay, he also had drink blood like the whole time before Johnny came. So why was he old? I write on, why was he old when he sucked out some hose?
Maybe, I don't know, but maybe it was a weak spot in the plot.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Maybe he couldn't feed of them because they were already dead.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, no. He didn't feed off the brides, but he gave them food, meals, like the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the whole storyline, Dracula is so obsessed with blood. So why wouldn't he take like a sip from the hunt for the bride? So it was like a little weak spot. But I see what they wanted to do. They wanted to give Johnny a reason to explore the castle.
It was a stupid reason because the brides of Dracula are actually a serious thing because Dracula wanted to reproduce. We saw that in a couple of movies or other series or stories. So they made them completely irrelevant. They introduced us the brides. Okay, what now? Nothing.
And he kills them, and he kills them off right from the back.
It's not only that. It's many things that the show showed us that, hey, this is important. Focus on this. We are trying to emphasize this, and then turns out in the next episode or in the next scenes that it was not so important. I don't like this.
Yeah, it was kind of, that's like also the whole thing. The production is actually really good. It's solid. All the designs, the locations. I have nothing against it, but there are a lot of plot holes. I guess that's because that every episode has a new director, so the lore and storytelling is not consistent. It's like and sometimes few is sometimes more, or less is sometimes more. I mean, the best scene, in my opinion, was in the first episode when he goes to the monastery as a wolf, and he actually comes out of the wolf. It was really, really well done. There was no VFX. It was all practical effects.
Yeah, it was a real wolf. Actually, they had to slay him, so the actor could
grow out of
the wolf. Yeah. No real animals were harmed during the filming. What I also didn't like about the first episode, and it's something that I didn't like in the whole series, was first I had the feeling that they tried to disrespect Dracula.
In what kind?
First, his character with these obvious hints that were really unnecessary. Then it was Helsing. I don't know. It was a very dull and dumb character they made or they wrote, because we know Van Helsing was a great hunter, a scientist, a doctor. He was doing research. He was the only one who could defeat Dracula. But I think the way the lines were written were a little anachronistic, because she was trying to be funny, Van Helsing.
She was also like really cocky.
Yeah, cocky and sassy. And it didn't fit to the whole era. And it was only cringy. The cringe was real, actually.
Yeah, and actually, he never, Van Helsing never really fought against Dracula. It was more like a staring off and try to ridicule him in some way. And this is what I also didn't like, that the Dracula was so obsessed with blood in general, that he was more like a beast. He had no, he was not sophisticated enough. Normally in all the most Dracula movies, Dracula is always like this gentleman, like sophisticated monster, not like this beast.
Yeah,
because they try to make him off.
Yeah, you have to imagine he's 400 years old. Yeah. He's not a new vampire.
Yeah. He knows actually his stuff.
And he can control his emotion, his weakness.
Yeah, and he's also very cunning and smooth. As a smooth talker. This is why I also was like a little disappointed. Normally, he tries to smooth talk his way into it. In this scenario in the monastery, it was possible because of Johnny, because he was his servant, obviously, and I wouldn't like it a little bit more if he smooth talk one of the nuns in a kind of way, because it's also like known that vampires in some laws, they have like this vampire charm, like to hypnotize or charm the other person, and it didn't make any use of that, and it was kind of weak. Because they failed because of Johnny and not because of their own weaknesses, the nuns. So
it would make more sense if he had seduced one of the nuns, because he also pointed out, hey, I need only one of you, only one.
That was also like what kind of boring writing.
Yeah. The writing was terrible, really.
Yeah.
I mean, every time Van Helsing was pointing out some weakness. Hey, for example, he sees a cross. Ah, yes, you're afraid of the cross. Stating every time the obvious.
Yeah, and sometimes he's not. He has no weakness against the cross.
Yeah.
This was the,
or he couldn't enter the monastery because he was not invited. Ah, you're not allowed to go in because you're not invited. Yeah, really? No shit, Sherlock.
No shit.
It was a bad character. This Van Helsing was, I think, the worst.
Yeah, and this was like also like a big critic. They were not consistent with the lore. I mean, if no one invites him, for example, no one invited him on the ship, for example, directly, was like more indirect. And one scene in the third episode when he enters like one house, he also was not told to come in. So he just
the drunk guy. Maybe the drunk guy had invited him.
Yeah, but he was already dead.
After.
We
don't know.
Yeah, so it was. They were not consistent with everything.
But the question is, does this rule apply to his own house? Does anyone have to invite him to enter his own castle? I mean,
I don't know.
Makes sense, and it doesn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
And what I also didn't like that they kind of left Mia fully out of everything. She only had like a small part, and they introduced her in the first episode, and then they left her. I mean, dude, it's Dracula's fucking reincarnation of her wife.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the reason he goes to London.
Yeah.
It's the reason he invites Jonathan to purchase this mansion.
Yeah. And the reason why in this series is why he goes to England is because he wants to have fun. It's like his only reason.
For shits and giggles.
Yeah, then I thought like, if you want to experience new stuff, why don't you go to America? It was like the better option.
Yeah, but I don't think they had Las Vegas back then.
No, sadly not. But they had a wild west. Okay, the second episode is called Blood Vessel. Dracula travels to England by ship and plays CSI Transylvania. This episode was kind of weird because in the Dracula movies I watched, I don't know, there was never something like that. It was like so much emphasis on the ship, like how he traveled and everything. And it was like, okay, he kind of had this master plan. Every one of the passengers was handpicked by him in secret, and it fucking made no sense. Yeah. For example, I mean, back in the 80s or 80-90s. 80-90s. How do you contact someone in India? A random doctor who encountered an undead.
Dude, I don't know what to say. Maybe so. For plot convenience, he happened to be around.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, and that's also like a weak spot. You have like all these characters. They introduce a whole lot of new characters, and they don't use them kind of.
Yeah, and the problem is that as they introduce the characters, they show us that these are important characters.
Kind of, yeah.
Something will happen with them, or something happened with them. For example, we have the flashback of the Indian doctor who got in contact with an undead.
Yeah,
actually.
I was really interested about it. What was the story about? Were there other vampires or other supernatural beings and so on? But they never used that much lore.
Yeah. Then we had this old lady.
This Bavarian old lady.
Yeah, who turned out she met Dracula when she was a young lady, and they danced together.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because he kind of fucked the mom or something like that. It was.
And then we have this gay couple, this rich guy with his fiance. and his servant, and they had a love connection with the servant, which also led to nothing.
Yeah.
I think Netflix just wanted to put a gay couple somewhere in the series.
Why were they there? They only were there because for money, in the end, for money reason. But how the fuck would Dracula get the fucking money from the girl, or how would he inherit it? I mean, there was like no connection. Okay, what he wanted to do with the husband or something like that. It was what I liked the most about this episode were the cook. Victor. he was the most interesting guy.
He was a funny guy. You know, I like this because this was a character who made sense to be funny.
Yeah.
He was a cook, he was on a ship, he was a sailor. Hey, YOLO.
Yeah, he only had one arm.
Yeah. And he didn't care about that because, hey, he was alive.
Yeah.
And
he was cool.
He was not expecting too much from his life. So
yeah, and also I think in the second episode, in the first scene, they introduced the kid, Piotr.
Yeah, Piotr.
Yeah, Piotr was his name, and they also had like a scene with an undead at the time, where the Russian priest kinda stabs. And he sees it, so it's like okay, he knows about the undead kinda. So it was okay. Maybe he plays a big part in the CSI Transylvania stuff, but in the end, he was also like, unnecessary. Had no big plot, and was also introduced like every other character, useless.
It was like a detective story a little bit.
Yeah,
but the difference was that we knew who the murderer was.
Yeah, so it was like there was no climax.
But I was surprised, actually, and it was a good thing, about the passenger in cabin 9.
Yeah, this was like one.
It was a mystery. Hey, who could it be? Who is there?
Yeah, but it was also like kind of weird. In one of the first scenes, he played chess with Agatha, and at that moment I was like, okay. Were they talking in retrospective? So it was not. So it was like you had the feeling that he already arrived in England, and it was like a retrospective. But on the other hand, it makes no sense that they play chess together in a friendly way. And when at that moment when they introduced the mystery of passenger in number 9, for me it was clear that who was the passenger. And at that moment it was like, okay, the whole episode was kind of done for me, because it was so easy to predict the whole plot of this episode. Yeah,
I liked it actually. This whole mind game.
Yeah.
With the chess, because it was in her mind.
Yeah, but I figured it out pretty fast. So yeah, so
I didn't. I let myself surprise actually. Yeah, the only thing that disappointed me actually, also one of some things, was the ending of the episode 2, because the first episode was okay. The first episode is always a little bit tricky. The second episode I like it more than the first episode, despite these cringy things that I dislike about the series. But in the end, when they fell in the sea, and he suddenly goes out to the shore, and he's surrounded by helicopters and policemen, I got disappointed.
Yeah.
Because I would prefer if the series would take place or continue to take place in the past.
Like the original.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that brings us to the third episode, The Dark Compass. Why it is called Dark Compass, I have no idea.
Did you name it?
No, I did not. I did not. Dracula wakes up, goes to the shore 123 years later, and he arrives in England and is welcomed by Dr. Zoe van Helsing, the great granddaughter of Agatha van Helsing. At that moment, I knew the series is fucked, because it makes no fucking sense that a nun, the nun van Helsing, had like children, and that the grandchildren would remember the ancestor from like 123 years ago.
Yeah, because as I said, she was a nun, and second, she died.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense in some way, but it's a little bit too convenient.
Yeah, we just have to assume that sometime she
gave birth for
birth.
some reason. What is kind of like a death sentence in Bavaria, like back in the day.
Yeah, this is why I didn't like the series, because you have to assume many things to
there's
make the plot make sense.
Yeah, what I said, there's no consistency in the lore, and everything is too convenient. And for some reason, there's also like the institute from Jonathan Harter Institute or hospital is not very clear what it is. It's like a kind of hospital mercenary base or something like that to contain Dracula. Everything was made to for the arrival, for the fallout of Dracula, and they didn't really care about it in the end. So like it was like I thought that was like a Van Helsing organization, but Van Helsing was only like a doctor at the institute. And also like she got all this money, but she never questioned it. Where comes that money from? There are so many questions that is unclear, and it's like and the whole story loses its grip kind of.
It was unnecessary. The third episode was really stupid, really bad.
Yeah, it was like really bad. What I also didn't kind of liked was when Dracula was so amazed by the small little things, by technology and learns about it. So that was kind of cute.
Yeah, it was cute.
But in the other way, in the modern world, Dracula kind of lost its touch. So he was just so normal. He was nothing special, kind of. I felt like that. He was not like a count anymore. He was just like a dude.
Which didn't make sense.
Yeah, who was just going around using Tinder as a fast food delivery service.
Yeah.
He was not out hunting or charming his way into a bigger position or had any plans. He was just in England and...
That was weak.
And eating a great buffet of England.
Or the other stupid scene where Dracula was somehow training.
Yeah, he was working out.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Why would he work out? Really?
I don't
know. His body is unchangeable. It cannot be changed.
Okay,
He cannot lose fat. Because his body does not function. So he cannot burn fat. He cannot burn fat.
He has no metabolism. So it also makes no sense. It's like, and the third episode is to be honest, it is a fucking train wreck. It is actually so bad.
Yeah.
Like the third episode, they introduce new characters. We have what was her name, Lucy. Then her boyfriend, wannabe boyfriend. Friend-zoned, yeah. And assistant Dr. Friendzone is also kind of introduced to do experiments on Dracula or have some, he's a psychiatrist, so actually a talk with Dracula. And he never gets into contact with him. It was also like, why introduce him? And he had no significant role. Despite that, he was Mr. Friendzone from Dracula's future girlfriend, kind of.
Yeah, but this was a little legit, the whole story with Lucy, because in the original story, Lucy was also.
She was a hoe.
Okay, I wanted to avoid that, but okay, you can call her that.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy, what's his name? This Friendzone was actually wanted to marry her. But in the original story, I think she got engaged to this American guy. Yeah. Which also happened in the series when she met this Texan guy. This rich dude.
Yeah, so it's actually like really close to original story, but it's poorly done. I don't know where to start.
Let's start with the fact that somehow there were undead people.
Yeah. Even before Dracula arrived, kinda. And Well, it also like make no sense. They wander around the city like, okay, where are the undead Van Helsing hunters or something like that, or the Jonathan Harter guys? Or so. What happened with all of them? Why is no one hunting Dracula? Why nobody cares about Dracula?
And who identified them in the first place?
Yeah.
Does this verb exist? Identify? Make someone undead? Okay, who made them undead?
Yeah, anyway. I don't know. That's like what I said. There's so many plot holes in the story. There's so much stuff unexplained that the story feels very unorganic. It's like you have to assume everything or
it didn't make any sense really.
Yeah, it was
especially the ending.
Especially but we don't
Oh really?
Or fuck it, and the series is shit. Okay, let's talk about the ending. What happens?
Nothing.
Okay.
Good night, good fight.
No. Okay, it comes out that all Dracula's weaknesses are man-made and are actual myth, that Dracula has no weaknesses. He's not weak to sunlight, not to anything, to crosses or anything. It's also like this melancholy old man who is afraid to die or cannot die. This old warrior who cannot get a warrior's death, and it's like, okay, he's kind of has this mental illness in some way, and Van Helsing tells him, these are the reason. It's all man-made. There is no myth. There is nothing it, and ridicules him, and he goes like, oh yeah, you are right. Let's die together. In a non-kinda romantic way that is kind of romantic. And I think like, what? That's not like how mental illness works in any way. It's like you go to someone who has serious depression, you go, hey, don't worry, be happy. It's like cured.
The whole scene, the whole ending would make a lot more sense if, for example, imagine this: Dracula was over Mina and had his focus on Van Helsing. Somehow he fell in love with Van Helsing. No problem with that. It would be actually very nice.
Frenemy relationship, something like that.
He tries to win her. He fails every time during the centuries with every generation of Van Helsing's daughter, granddaughter, and stuff. In the end, he gets finally rejected by this Agatha or this Zoe. She confronts him with his life or existential crisis, and then he gives up. And then he decides to die with her. It would make a lot more sense.
Or I would have liked it like another approach would be like, because Zoe had cancer, and that's for example the cancer would be like a problem that he cannot turn her into his bride to make her immortal, and that way he decides, okay, he cannot. He kind of lost his love for Mina, and he found his love for Van Helsing or Zoe, or more like Agatha. It would be like better that it was like Agatha, because Agatha was kind of reincarnated into Zoe in some way, and that would make a more like a Romeo and Juliet like death, like that. But so it was like, okay. No reason, no romance, nothing.
And now officially we came up with a better story than the actual writers of the series.
Better story than Twilight.
Everything's better than Twilight. First, some facts. The series was filmed over a period of 5 months.
Wow, that's pretty long. If you compare it to Parasite or something like they did like in a couple of weeks.
Or if you consider the result.
Pretty bad.
Development first started on this adaptation in 2017. To prepare for the role, Claes Bang watched as many Dracula interpretations as he could. He was particularly impressed with Klaus Kinski's portrayal of the vampire in Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire, 1979. Yeah. So I think it was a good thing that this guy, this Claes, did an incredible job in acting as Dracula.
He did good.
When I saw him the first time, I thought, wow.
He looks like the original.
Yeah, Christopher Lee. Or the
version that I have. Maybe get a little bit picture. Where is it? The DVD.
Can't tell the difference.
Like, schauen wir rein so. If I can zoom in, this version from 1931. It's from Bela Lugosi. Restored version with David Manners, Helen Chandler, Dwight Fry, Edward Van Sloan, directed by Todd Browning.
Yeah. So as I said, the acting was incredible from Claes. Not his fault that the writers did a bad job at writing his lines and make him so obvious in some ways. But okay. But nice job, dude, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weak. Okay. So, yeah, finally, rating.
Yeah, rating.
How would you rate this mini-series?
Unfortunately, despite how satisfied I was with the acting of this dude, I didn't like the series at all. It was easy to watch, I have to confess. It was very easy to watch, but I didn't like it, so I give it a 4. A 4.
Yeah, I also give it like a 4.
Yeah. So it's
4
an 8.
out of 100.
So 4 and 4 makes 8.
Of 200. Okay. Okay, then. Good fight. Good night.